today's discussion. Let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Boone.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Getting close to the end of 2020, and hopefully seeing the back end of the coronavirus with the vaccines coming through. And I noticed India's had its first vaccinations done. The UK started their vaccinations a few weeks ago. Europe is now having their vaccinations done. So hopefully we're getting on top of this particularly nasty disease that's going to be with us in the long term. But we need to be talking about the future. And one thing that we've seen on our press screens over the last couple of days is someone's coming to India. Who's that?
So, Naval, the Indian government has started a program called Make It in India. It's not made in India, it's Make It in India. And as part of that initiative, we have been talking to a lot of global corporations and persuading them to set up the manufacturing facilities out of India. And India has a huge workforce that can be leveraged, and they are all English-speaking, well-educated, with open outlook, and the country is democratic. So, with that background in mind, the government of India has been negotiating mega deals with large corporations. So, iPhone has already started their setup here. Samsung has started. A lot of other names I can throw in. But the latest kid on the block in India is going to be Tesla. And yesterday, the Industries Ministry announced that Tesla will be launching their India operations in 2021.
Well, like any time you and I get together, you always name drop, CK. You just drop in Apple here, or maybe Microsoft over here, Tata, over here. All the big names, and Tesla, yes, coming to India. And I think it's great, for the simple reason is India is the second largest population in the world. In not too long, it may be the largest population in the world, if you believe everything that's coming out of China. And equally, Tesla and India sort of fit very comfortably because it's dynamic, it's young, it wants to get ahead of the game. And the other thing is, in India, you have got an abundance of developers that are moving into the electric vehicle arena. You've probably got a concentration, your own Silicon Valley, if you like, of EV. Perhaps if it's not the biggest in the world, it's going to very shortly be the biggest in the world. And the other thing is, there's an awful lot of people there that can actually help the production lines get moving. Because one thing that we do know, certainly in the north, is that it's a very industrialized arena. And you can move things really, really fast. And let's face it, it's more of an open discussion than it would be coming from China. So it doesn't surprise anyone at all that Tesla is moving there. But let's look at why. Because my guess is they're not moving there to do the vehicles. They're moving there to look at the actual powerhouse of this vehicle engine, the battery. They're going to bring their technology into the battery side. Do you think that's the route that this is going to go?
I think so, Neville. I think the next generation of electric vehicle lies in the power source. There are different backgrounds to why Tesla is trying to come here. Yesterday, I heard on the TV that one of the large car manufacturers has announced that in 2021, they will be selling 2 million car units in India in next year. So 2
Wow.
million is a very aggressive target. So obviously these large car manufacturers, Tata being the second largest and Maruti being number one in India, all other players are much smaller, and the Maruti and Tatas make Indian designed Indian cars. In terms of volume, other players like Hyundai, Honda, their market share are very, very limited. Ford has a substantial market share, and so on. So there are so many car manufacturers. So Maruti coming out and announcing target for next year of 2 million car units, it's huge because we were thinking, hey, it's a COVID-19 situation, people will not be buying cars. But unlike what we think, they have done some study and they are setting up the target of 2 million. So Tesla entering the market at the right time is, I think it's a quite important decision by Tesla. There is another background, Naval, that the Indian government way back about 3 to 4 years back, they had announced their intention to completely migrate from internal combustion engine to electric vehicle by 2025, and they are giving a lot of softs to people who are setting up shop, car manufacturing, two-wheeler, three-wheeler manufacturing unit in this arena. And already in past couple of years, there are more than 300 to 400 manufacturing units, small, large, big, already there in the market, and they are selling their produce. You mentioned about the golf cart size delivery vehicles. We see them all around to distribute milk, to distribute vegetables and groceries. These are the vehicles which are being used. There are golf cart type vehicles which are being used, electric vehicles being used within the society to transport people from their houses to the main gate. So it's already there. There are car manufacturers who are designing and building and distributing these cars. Some of them have already realized that making car is not so important because it's a very primitive technology. It is actually less complex than internal combustion engine. Internal combustion engine is very complex, and you have these Hondas of the world and uh, Rolls Royce of the world doing a lot of R&D, producing very world class, quite very powerful diesel engines. But the electric engine is already available for last 150 years. It's very simple technology. The key to success is lies in the charge point. So there are a lot of players in India who realize this over the course of past 3 4 years, and they are putting their money in charge stations. So when Tesla comes into India next year, they will have to fight with at least 300 to 400 players in all categories across the board. So they have to find their place, what segment they are targeting and how they are going to sell their cars among maybe 100 of their category. So I think that is where they, as a businessman, I can think of these are the challenges for Tesla. And obviously, I think there could be other things. They can use Indian workforce for research and development. And I think that the battery is a very critical part, very critical component of electric vehicles. So I think they will have to bring in their specialization to India to leverage Indian workforce.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, as I say, to me, it's probably going to be the new Silicon Valley of EV. Um, and again, you're quite right. I mean, we've had golf carts which have been electric for many years, so the technology is not difficult. The thing about golf carts and any other electric vehicle on a small estate is they're not built for robustness. They're not built so that they can have collisions. So even our thought process of the driverless car, we don't need the anti-roll bars thought process that we've had previously. We don't need the crash dummies and the seatbelt strength that we've had to think of previously, because we're moving into a more secure arena, and cars having head-on crashes will be a thing of the past if we believe in the driverless technology that's going forward, because there'll be so many other fail-safes that you and I will be sitting in a vehicle, having a cup of tea we're out of proper china cups. It's a bit like the old British Airways first class travel. It'll be the silver knives and forks, the nice dinner plates, and the very fine china for drinking tea, because the vehicle will be safe. You won't have a thought of having a massive impact on something that's coming the other way or coming from the side. So we're moving into a different era. I mean, maybe some people haven't been thinking about this, but we won't have this heavy vehicle anymore. we will just have a vehicle made for comfort. To stop the wind getting in, to make the ambience of the internal part of the vehicle, climate friendly. If I want to feel cold inside, I can feel cold inside. If I want to feel warm inside, I can feel warm inside. But it won't be AC as you and I know it today. It'll be a completely different form of comfort. And I think with Tesla moving into India, I think it will accelerate those opportunities, because just like anything else, when you get a number of people coming together locally, talking about the same thing on a regular basis, sparks start to fly, ideas start to be exchanged. And from what I've heard about the way they operate, very similar to the way they operate within Apple, people are encouraged to have conversations. They're actively encouraged to talk about things around the coffee area. Now, whether you're going to get that type of discussion when it becomes confidential to your company's own, future, there could be a conflict of interest. But like anything else, when you get two professors in a room and they spar with each other and they throw ideas out, there isn't this thought of intellectual property, which means there's no thought of protection. There's actually only a thought of growth. And I hope that this type of move will start to do more and more of that, because we shouldn't be thinking about protecting our own intellectual property going forward. I know any shareholders listening on here will think I'm talking heresy, but the intellectual property will still be yours. The doing bit will still be yours, but bringing in this collaboration with other people will be the opportunity to advance your intellectual property and get yourself out there quicker. There's no point in having a patent, sat in every patent office around the world, just waiting for someone else to use your patent so you can go and say, excuse me, you're using our property, we're going to charge you a royalty. What's the point, really? We need to be getting out there and moving things forward. And again, this will be heresy as far as some shareholders are concerned, because they've spent an awful lot of money on their company's development. But we've seen it in pharma, in big pharma. And we've seen what the COVID virus has done for their thoughts and our thoughts about big pharma. In other words, that those can afford to pay will pay. Those that can't afford to pay will actually have it at a huge discount. Yeah, perhaps even free, depend upon what commercial relationship you can come up with. That's how we progress as a global nation. Maybe a little bit of utopian theory going on here, but nonetheless, I think that's really where this type of future negotiation should be going. And Tesla moving to India, I think is one of those big moves, because it'll be big headlines, and we'll find out, I'm sure over the next few days or few weeks, we'll find out the reasons why.
Right. So, interestingly, you're talking about the business progression and the growth. There is a electric car manufacturer which has been selling, making, designing cars and distributing them for last 40 years. Surprising surprise. It's a surprise. People who are not Indians.
Surprise!
There is one car manufacturer. He is not great guy. He is not one of these popular name, but he has been selling nonetheless. And he started off with a three-wheel electric car way back when I was in school, and then progressed to two-wheel electric car with single motor, and now he has got a four-door car option as an option. So you have option of four seats, two-door, or you have four seats, four-door cars like a saloon, and you can have an option of a sports model where they will have two motors and so on. And these are very low end, not low on comfort, but low end cars in terms of pricing. Um, and they've also realized that to popularize their vehicle, because they have been doing it for last 40 years, the key point is how do we charge the cars? Their customers, they find it difficult. So they have come out with a very innovative method, and that is also up in the market, where if you buy a car, your objective of buying their car is you won't have point to point transit from your home to office and back. And then you actually put a shed in your house with electric solar panels, and you just plug in your car, and next day you're ready to go. So it's basically very convenient for their customers to charge their car. It comes with a complete package. You have a parking area, they build the parking area, they build a solar panel, they build plugins. So and they have been there, they have been there for last 40 years. So when Tesla coming in, I presume as a businessman, they will not be focused on selling their cars in India, because there is a huge competition. There is going to be a very huge price war, and Tesla has a certain benchmark for pricing. Even in the US, they have not, history says that they have not reduced their price, even though others in Silicon Valley are coming with similar offerings. What I feel is that the Tesla has also invested a huge amount of money in the R&D for battery, because that is where the Achilles heel lies for all electric vehicle, whether you're having trucks or a small car. The battery is heavy, they are less efficient, and in order to succeed in this arena, because the electric motor is already reached the pinnacle of development, there is not more development required in increasing the efficiency of electric motor. So the battery is where the Achilles heel is, and I think if Tesla is setting up their setup in India, I think they should look at the R&D around the battery, which we are doing in California at the moment.
As you say, I mean, the technology of the car has been around for years. And the battery, the power source, has been one that has been sadly lacking. Even though we're pushing ahead at some phenomenal rate, we're still relying on this battery power. Some cars, as you've noticed, are going to be made of a solar material. So we've got the perpetual battery as long as the sun's out. So if it's an overcast day, you're not going to move anywhere, are you? And this is the issue, isn't it? And we've moved to other forms of power, like wind power. At one point, we would see cars going down the road and a big windmill on the top. Um, uh, Other people have seen sails. You know, we've seen people on beaches use, go yachting on the beach with a big sail and nowhere near the sea. The sea is half a mile out that way. They've just been four wheels and just using wind power with a sail. So the way that we think, the way that we collaborate with each other will change. It has to change, because I don't believe at the moment that our current thinking around storage in a battery is where we're going to be maybe in 5 years' time. And even so, if you look back at the progression of the last 5 years, it's still been along the same thinking. Nothing has changed much. I mean, you and I can remember, as maybe 12 or 13-year-olds in that science lab, in the chemistry lab, where we put a couple of spikes into a lemon and we created electricity. We had a little light bulb working on the side that sort of flickered. So the creation of electricity is as old as ever. We can get it out of plants if we just think very simply. I think that where we go forward is there's going to be a huge scientific breakthrough. Just like the pictures that are changing behind you. You have two cogs that are moving together, two same-sized cogs. Well, someone suddenly realized that if I make one cog smaller, I can turn the big cog, and the little cog is moving around much faster. And again, we've had that technology for years and years and years, and it's the way our watches used to work in the past, and these huge clocks that have the inner workings. So, as a human progression here, I'm sure someone somewhere, maybe they haven't been born yet, will come up with that spark of inspiration that just starts to take us down the next generation, the next move. Coming from the oil and gas industry, we used to have these fuel cells, as we used to call them, in the 1980s and 90s. Um, I wish, with hindsight, that the oil and gas industry had just put a small amount of money to one side every year and invested in renewable, because by now perhaps we'd have had the breakthrough in renewable energy, and certainly with batteries for cars. But again, that's with hindsight. So we have to rely upon where we are today. I think it's a fantastic move for Tesla, huge move for India. All of these little pieces of the jigsaw are being put on the map, making India the power that it should be on the world stage. With 1.4-ish billion people, it's got a huge resource. And you have to hope that that huge resource is going to be channeled in the right direction.
Right, Nivel. So there are two announcements recently that I've seen in the news. One is just 3 days back, the India one player in Bangalore launched their first electric tractor for the farming industry. So so Indians are already launching competition for Tesla when they come here, because Tesla coming out with a truck, etc. So I think the Indians will quickly replicate. And the second news is that there was one player in New Delhi. They launched their cars online, and within like 2 weeks of their launch, they got 3,000 bookings, mostly from North America. They're selling their cars for $25,000. So, and these are all solar powered, which they claim they don't have, you don't have to charge ever. So if you drive your car for 300 kilometers during the transit, it will charge enough for next 300 kilometers. That is what they are claiming. So I think there are a lot of innovation already happening, but I think the Tesla has to bring the R&D around battery. The usual solid state batteries are not sufficient for running any sort of revolution in the car industry. As you're coming from the oil and gas, you know for sure that the fuel cells also are seeing the sunset now, because they are not as efficient as internal combustion engine. So electric vehicles have to get into atomic arena, and the power source has to come from the some sort of atomic source where you charge your car once in a lifetime, and then you don't have to ever refuel your cars. So I think that is where the challenge is. I think there is a lot of R&D. I've read that Tesla is doing a lot of R&D, and they are coming out with even degeneration technology which spoils the batteries after each charge. So they're working on these molecular levels where they can actually produce very efficient, long-lasting batteries, which are full of power with electricity. So I think that is where the challenge is. I think India is the right place to do all this, and also the solar power, because there's a lot of sun. The summer, the great Indian sun during summers. There are a lot of empty spaces which are not habited. There are places where such players like Tesla and others can do a lot of R&D, produce good quality solar panels and power generation. So I think that is what we will like to see as Indians, because they are coming to our country. And while there is competition in this landscape, but I think the new technology will make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's a great move for the world. It's obviously a really good move for Tesla, because let's face it, these are a commercial group. They're only going to do things that are going to make a payback some way, if not tomorrow, then down the line. It's got to be a great move for India, but I do think it's a really good move for the world stage. I think it's an opportunity to start to progress and move things at a faster rate. I remember my father, who was a mechanical engineer. If he were around today, he'd still be saying the same thing. We still haven't come up with something that will compete with a combustion engine. as he taught me at a very young stage, it was suck, squeeze, bang, blow. And anyone that knows anything about combustion, they will know that's how a cylinder, it sucks it in, it squeezes it, there's ignition, generates the power, and the exhaust gases come out. Suck, squeeze, bang, blow. I don't know what the phraseology will be for battery powered vehicles. Maybe just be bang, 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 bang. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it won't be a bang because there won't be any ignition. It's literally just turning on that electric power, reducing it. As simple as that. Been great speaking with you, CK. Congratulations to India. Well done, Tesla. And let's look forward to a progressive future.
Right, Neville, we will wait and watch their official announcement and we will follow the story. And thank you very much for finding time to discuss this very important news item that we thought that we should bring to our viewers. Neville, we will catch up with you tomorrow again on something very interesting.
Nice to see you, CK. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye bye.